Hey everyone, guess what?
Boys are back in town. Boys are back in town. Boys are back in town. Da 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 da.
We're back.
We are back, guys. Welcome back to Knights of the Nerds Table. God, has it been a second? How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing very well. I know we usually try and stay in touch. And so you and I, for those who don't know, EJ had a son recently, and I had a son even more recently. So we've had a lot of things going on
Man-child.
in our lives. Yeah. And yeah, we decided, we both went out and saw the Superman film, and we decided, you know what, we haven't done anything with Knights for a while. Let's just hop on. We might be a little rusty, might be a little bit off of our game, but let's just hop on a live and have some fun and talk about the movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, here's the deal. The Knights are back, the boys are back, and guess what? DC is back. So we're here to talk, have a spoiler chat about the new Superman movie titled just cleanly Superman. Now, it was supposed to be named Superman Legacy at first. They kind of ditched that to be a little bit more simplistic and just say Superman. I'm going to start calling it Superman 25 because technically Superman is the first Reeves movie back in the 70s. So I'm going to be referring to this going forward as Superman 25. Is that okay with you, Josh? Feels right? Wonderful.
Yeah, especially
wonderful.
we're gonna get into conversations and bringing up some of the other Superman films. Then yeah, we be a good way to differentiate between this one and those other ones. So yeah, works for me.
Exactly. It's just kind of a way to kind of keep it going. It's like how we say Suicide Squad or The Suicide Squad. James Gunn Easter egg there, but that's a little easier. Superman 25, just something to kind of say, hey, this is the Gunn movie, and that was the old Reeve and Donner movie. I want to let everyone know this is going to be a spoiler discussion. We're going to dig right into things. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want it ruined and spoiled for you, get offline completely and definitely don't watch this video.
Yes.
I'd stay off of Twitter if I were you, or X or whatever that is. I'd stay off of that.
Yeah, lots of spoilers out there, and I mean, this kind of gets into the conversation a little bit. But the trailer, one of the things that you and I talked, we talked a little bit about the movie, but we both tried to sort of limit our conversation because we knew we wanted to come on and do a live. So tried to limit a little bit of our discussion so that we didn't, exhaust everything we talk about and then have to come on here and try. We wanted to be organic, right? So one of the things we did mention was that the trailer didn't really give a ton of things away, and that was kind of nice because you can watch the trailers and get a little bit of an idea of the visuals that they were going for to at least get you interested in watching this film. But you certainly, I didn't anyways, walk away from those trailers and then watching the film and being like, oh, okay, well, I saw the trailers, so I know the whole plot and everything that's going to happen. Like, I feel like they did a good job of let's tease you a little bit with some visuals and give you a little bit of an idea of what you might be looking forward to in the film, but also let's not completely give everything away.
No, for sure. I think that's a very good point. And to kind of dig into it a little bit, for those of you who don't know, this is a reboot of the DC universe. So this has very little to some continuity to the old DCEU. This is going to be the DC, just not even cinematic, just DC universe, right? So they're all kind of combining it together. James Gunn and Peter Safran took over, I want to say 2, maybe 3 years ago now, over DC, canceled the old continuity. So no, my boy Henry Cavill, despite my Zack Snyder shirt. Henry Cavill is not in this one. I just couldn't find my regular Superman shirt, so I figured I would at least put on something to kind of show solidarity with DC, at least as a whole. But yeah, this is a spoiler discussion. Definitely want to dig into this movie. I saw it a couple days ago. Josh also saw this movie. Again, once again, before we get into spoilers, so if you have not watched it and you don't want to spoil, do not listen to us. But I can't wait to get into it. I'm just so happy to have my boy Josh here back to be the Max Kellerman to my Stephen A. Smith. They said we get along much better than those two do. So we actually like each other off stage, which is awesome. So that's awesome. Or off screen.
It's definitely a bonus given the fact that you're married to my sister. It is definitely
Yeah, would make Thanksgiving a lot easier, you know?
Yes, indeed.
I'll be like, Josh, pass the turkey. Say, I don't want to give you the turkey. This guy,
Yeah,
get
you
out
ain't
of
get
here.
no turkey. What turkey?
Yeah, mashed potatoes. Oh man, but yeah, let's hop into it really quick, Josh. So I want to actually start off with you before we,
Hmm.
because I want to give our ratings at the end of it, but I just want to talk about different
Yep,
aspects of this film. Right? What did you like? What did you think was really solid about this film from your perspective? Because that's what I want to first start off with. I'll then talk about what I liked.
yep.
Then we'll talk about some of the negatives, some things we didn't necessarily love. There is a very controversial part that they changed that was critical to Superman's canon. I would say. Would you say so, Josh? Critical to Superman's canon?
Absolutely. Very, very
Yeah,
much
I
so.
thought was
So yeah, let's.
a little bit tough, but sorry guys, my
Uh-huh.
camera is being a little weird there. We're live, guys.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry, we are a little.
We
You know what I mean?
apologize if this live is giving anyone motion sickness right now.
Oops, I know, right? Hold
Yeah,
on,
so
real
let me
quick.
just jump right in then.
There we go. Go for it.
Some of the things that I really liked about this film was, first off, I want to talk. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, so I won't say a whole lot. But the brighter tone, I did like the brighter tone. I was a little bit skeptical at first because um, the darker tone has kind of worked and it's done fairly well. But I also appreciate that I feel like James Gunn did a good job of going to the source material here with the comics and being more hopeful and bright. And I think it was delivered in a really nice package. And going off of that, my favorite part about this film is the fact that we kind of went away from what a lot of superhero movies have been doing lately, which is here's this Easter egg, here's this Easter egg, check this out, check that out. And we're sort of getting bombarded with little bits and pieces and characters, where you have to really figure out what's going on. And this sort of just stayed very concise into like, here's some good guys, here's some bad guys. That's all we're going to do in this film. That's it. We're not going to introduce a bunch of different other people, whether good or bad. We're just going to kind of stay concise to these characters. And along with that, I feel like we got a decent amount of personality and screen time from each one of the characters.
Agreed.
What was the name that it was the Justice Gang, right? That
The Justice
they-
League. Yep.
Justice Gang, yeah. So Hal Jordan's Green Lantern really wanted to call their little group that they had together the Justice Gang. It was kind of one of the running jokes.
Sorry, brother. Sorry, it's Guy Gardner, not
Yes,
Hal
Guy.
Jordan.
Yes, Guy. My bad. And it was nice because we get a little bit of screen time with each one of those characters, with the Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific. Each one of those characters has a couple of moments, a couple of scenes, but it's not overbearing, and they don't try and bring in a bunch of other, like, hey, here's these other people that might be a part of this Justice Gang, Justice League, whatever they're going to be known as.
Yep.
They kept it kind of simple and concise into the characters, so we didn't feel like we had a million different characters we had to catch up with or figure out about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the visuals were really nice. I liked the brighter tone. My other favorite aspect about this that I want to mention before I kick it back to you, EJ, is the score. The score is so important in Superman films. I mean, it's important in films in general, right? It's such a huge part of the film because what the score is doing is it's emotionally setting the tone for you, right? Am I supposed to be happy, sad, excited, angry? What emotion am I supposed to be feeling in this scene? And the score plays a large part in delivering that. And I really enjoyed the score for this film. And to be honest, I was pretty skeptical. And Superman has a very high bar set for it. If you look back at the history of Superman, the music and the score involved, very, very high bar. I think the music and the score in general, like you have the music, like the songs, like the actual songs, the songs are playing, but then the score that's being played, both I thought were excellent. I thought there was a great blend of each, and I thought that the usage of them was really, really good. So those are some of the things I very much enjoyed about the film. EJ, what are some of the things you enjoyed?
Yeah, so I'll go piggyback off of what you were saying. So I think the part where it just drops you into the film, like this isn't an origin film. Superman's been doing this for 3 years. I think at times it worked, at times it didn't, but I want to focus on the parts that I liked about it. I like the fact that we were able to kind of go into a world where all was already set up. A lot of people have said this. This is the most comic booky movie I've probably ever seen. So what I mean by that is that like it went full on, not necessarily campy, but just straight out. Like the difference between the DCEU and the DCU is that the DCEU put us in our world. Henry Cavill Superman and Snyder Superman put us in our world. This is not our world. This is something completely different, right?
Yeah,
like you have, like you have to almost the extreme. Literally, Lex Luthor has employed some random monkeys to go on Twitter and start typing out hatred towards Superman. Like when you have that, that's not going to happen with Henry Cavill Superman. You know what I mean? Now you could have say whether you love that or hate that, but it is a difference, right? We're dropping them in their own world where their own rules apply to a certain extent. So it's more cartoony as a result. Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that a lot of times that actually worked for it because it fully embraced 100%. This was a comic book movie. So that's kind of the foundation of this film. I think the first thing I'll say that I really like, well, I did really like Lois and Clark's romance. You know, Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornswell did a very good job. And to be honest with you, and this is always a critique I've had, Lois Lane has not been done super well overall. She's been done fine, but she hasn't. There's very few people done a great job. I would even say Margaret Kidder. Like I went back to watch the old Supermans. I thought she kind of sucked. Like as a girlfriend, I was like, she didn't love Superman until Clark Kent until she found out he was Superman. Oh, that kind of stings. So did you really love him? You know, like
in this film, we don't know the order, right? Because they have the scene where she goes back to, I'm assuming it's her apartment, and you know he's cooking breakfast for dinner for her, and you know he's like, oh, we've been together 3 months or whatever. I think he says it's 3 months. So it's like a 3-month long relationship. So we don't really get a clear, unless I missed a passing comment, we don't have a clear answer of did she start dating Superman or did she start dating Clark, and then you know which chicken or egg, right? Which came first? And we don't know necessarily.
Where I think that it's at least shown that she likes Clark, whereas at other times, other iterations, it showed that she's kind of like, Clark, you know, what an idiot, that guy tripping over himself, you know. She doesn't find him as enduring as she does, but when Superman comes, she's like, oh my goodness, it's super, you know what I mean? So I never liked that.
He's literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Exactly. So I never liked that part of this. I just like the fact that we were able to dig into it. Even a critique to my boy Zack Snyder, I think Amy Adams did a good job, but she was quickly sidelined to push everything else in the universe. Just to be honest, Amy Adams is a great actress, wonderful actress, and she did good with what she was given, but she was quickly sidelined just to build up to the Justice League, which, again, a lot of people said may have been a little too quick, right? Yeah. So the very first Man of Steel did a great job, but this one where they really dig into their relationship and their problems, I enjoyed. I know a lot of people do criticize, like, comic book people are hard to please, man. So there was a lot of people who were criticizing and saying that they didn't feel like Superman should be yelling in a conversation. I'm going to give him a pass. I think that that's showing that he's human and showing that he's trying to work through stuff just like we are, you know?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed their romance. Another person that I thought really stood out was Guy Gardner. So Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner. Nathan Fillion is an old James Gunn regular. He's in a lot of James Gunn projects, to be honest with you. And he really just captured the essence of Guy Gardner. Like, he has that funky haircut. He was the funniest character in the Justice Gang, in my opinion. I mean, he's supposed to be a jerk, and that's fine. That's kind of what he is. He's the worst of the Green Lanterns. He's going to be showing up in the Green Lantern television show with Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. So that's going to be interesting to see them kind of interact with each other. But he's always supposed to be this outrageous, braggadocious kind of guy that kind of just happens to be good at his job, but it's not always good. Like, he's got somewhat of a nuisance. I think my favorite joke was when he was like, yes, Superman trusts us because we are, of the cloth. That was just that was a good one. That one got me, but I was like, that's pretty funny. The rest of the Justice Gang, honestly, Mr. Terrific was a standout, and I was really happy to see Mr. Terrific there because the actor who plays him, I think his name is Adi Getheji. He's an African guy. I forget. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. But he was actually an X-Men. He was an X-Men as this indestructible character. They kind of offed him off pretty quickly. So him and Nicholas Hoult, Lex Luthor, from that movie both get to be in this movie. That's two X-Men that get to be over here. I think he was the coolest. Honestly, Mr. Terrific had the most sauce of anybody. Like, as far as the best action scenes, they kind of gave that to Mr. Terrific. And he was just a very interesting character, very cool, very laid back. And we had never seen him on the big screen before, and I was happy to see Mr. Terrific because I did like him in the animated series, right? Really enjoyed Mr. Terrific. The other thing that I mean, this is just to say overall, all the casting was perfect. There was no one who was not cast in the role that they deserved, and they fit their personality within those castings. The one other thing I want to hit on real quick before I close this out, but I think this is just an interesting point because I'm going to make another point later. But Ma and Pa Kent, I've liked all the Ma and Pa Kents before. What I like that's different about this one is that they kind of made them more recognizable as lower to middle class Americans. Yeah. I love Kevin Costner. You know I love Kevin Costner from Man of Steel, right? I love Diane, I forget her last name, but Diane Keaton, I want to say. I really love her. But I never bought them as middle class, lower class Americans. I didn't. Whereas these guys are straight Midwesterners, okie dokes. Like the Pa Kent back in Man of Steel, I mean, a lot of people have criticism of Kevin Costner's, maybe you should let him die comment. He was fatherly, but he was also like talking these grandiose, like Roman way of speaking, where that's not really how a Midwesterner would talk. You're gonna be the hope to the world, Clark. You're just gonna, when they find out about you, it's gonna change everything we know about the existence of mankind. I don't get Midwestern farmer from that.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Ma and Pa Kent, they look like regular Americans, whereas Paul Ma Kent in Man of Steel, again, love that version. You know me, I love that version. They felt like two people cosplaying as middle to lower middle class Americans rather than just kind of your regular people. So I really thought that change was very interesting. The movie has a good time frame too, like it's not too long, not too short. And yeah, I think that a lot of the things that they did there, as far as just the colors and just making Superman's world whole by giving him a Lois Lane, a Daily Planet, even Supergirl apparently, comes out at the end. His world is pretty full, and I did enjoy that. I went to actually this real quick, Josh, before we move into things we didn't like. How did you feel about Crypto, man?
I thought it was really cool, and just to sort of echo some of what you said, goes off of my point earlier when I was talking about how I really enjoyed that the movie was concise and kind of direct and to the point. And by the way, guys, anybody watching, feel free to chime in on the comments down below. Let us know what you liked about the film. We'd love to bring that up on screen if you have any thoughts about the movie, if you've had a chance to see it and you're watching this stream. But yeah, so I really liked that the whole package was sort of concise in the beginning, where they're giving you like the quick little, subtitles, basically just saying like, Superman came out, declared himself like the strongest metahuman. He's been doing Superman stuff for 3 years, and then Crypto just kind of shows up. And you don't get the explanation of why he's there until the very end of the movie, and it's just that he's Superman's dog sitting for the weekend because his cousin Supergirl is out partying on red sun planets, right? So he's just watching the dog for the weekend. But I like that everything kind of just gets introduced, and throughout the film you're given the chance to sort of figure it out and piece it together. And I do like that the dog kind of comes in and out. It's not a main constant throughout the entire movie, but has some great moments. And there's actually a term for this, and I forget the name of the term, but I overheard this explanation once when I was talking about it. When you're in film school, they talk about if you want to create a character and you want to immediately endear them to the hearts of your audience, or you want to put a bad taste in everybody's mouth, you want to make very clear that this is a bad guy, you need to not like this character, you can have them mistreat or treat nicely an animal. It's sort of like a tactic that they do in film and in writing in general.
Save a cat out the tree.
Really clear, good guy, bad guy, right? Treats dog nice, good guy, we like him. He's the goodest boy and Superman's treating him, really nice. We like Superman, good Superman. And then Lex is obviously treats the dog very poorly, keeps him in captivity, talks about, literally says to Superman, we're going to study him, figure out everything we can about him, then we're going to put him down. Doesn't have any emotion whatsoever towards the dog other than this is just a tool for me to use to gain knowledge, and then I'm going to kill it once I'm done gaining that knowledge, once I've used it as much as I see fit. So it's interesting to see that played out in such a way where we very clearly have, hey, here's good guy Superman, and here's bad guy Lex Luthor, and let's just use this dog and their treatment of the dog to very clearly communicate who the good guy and the bad guy, who they are.
So I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Jake. Jake and I actually went to see the movie together. He just commented, said, best comic book movie I've seen in such a long time. Jake really had a good time with this movie. So we sat right beside each other. We kept giving each other looks the whole time. Wish you were there, Josh, because it was a really good time to kind of, share this moment with friends. But, Jake was really cool. Thanks for watching, Jake. And, hope we can catch Fantastic Four together too, brother.
Mm-hmm.
The other question I wanted to ask you real quick, Josh, because we haven't even talked about this, but let's talk villain, man. Lex Luthor, Nicholas Hoult. How'd you feel about good old Nick Hoult?
So
before we get into that, actually, so I apologize, Josh. One thing I want to add is that Nicholas Hoult actually auditioned for Superman. It came down to him and David Cornswet. Now, they chose to go with David Cornswet, obviously a good choice, but Nicholas Hoult was actually up for both. He even actually lost out to Robert Pattinson for the Batman. So Nick Hoult, even though he's been Cyclops in the X-Men kind of soft reboot, he's kind of had his almost taste of DC greatness. He finally gets to get the DCU with this role as Lex Luthor. Now, he has a very comic book take. I think he looked great, personally.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get your take as far as how you felt about him, what you thought his motivations were they well spelled out for you, or just get kind of your general thoughts on his performance.
Yeah. So I want to be a little bit cautious here because one of the things I don't like about the film has to do with Lex Luthor. But it's not the actor, his performance or anything. It's more of a script thing. So we'll get to that. I'll set that aside for now. But I really enjoyed the portrayal of Lex Luthor. We've had lots of different Lexes over different TV shows, whether live action, animated films, everything. We've had lots of voices. Right, we've been exposed to Lex Luthor quite a bit in various forms of media, but I did very much enjoy this Lex Luthor. I think he was crazy and envious and all the things that you want Lex Luthor to be at his core. What makes him the villain that he is, and like as I said earlier, the fact that he is just he's got his girlfriends locked up in ex-girlfriends locked up in a pocket dimension, and really anybody who's even looked at him the wrong way, in the slightest smallest inconvenience, and he's like, all right, you're in this pocket dimension now in this crazy weird prison. And the whole thing with the monkeys, having monkeys that were trained to just bash Superman on different social media platforms, and just his genius that he has and his hunger to be just the smartest, and the fact that he keeps on, towards the end, the big climactic scene, and he's talking to Superman, and it's, brain beats brawn, every time, and that's really the theme of Lex Luthor, right? Is that he's going to use his brain to defeat the man known as Superman, who has all this incredible ability and strength, and just everything you could really want in a superhero, right? He can really do it all. And Lex is out to prove that his brain is superior to all those abilities that Superman has. So I think the delivery was excellent. And again, talking about these things out loud really makes me think of how all this craziness, it makes me think of what you said earlier. This is a comic book movie. We're in a comic book world. And the scene that sticks out to me is when Superman is dealing with some tough news that we haven't talked about yet. We'll talk about it. And he's talking with Lois. He's sort of having a therapeutic moment, right? He's feeling kind of bummed out. He's had some tough news. He's trying to come to grips with some things in his past. and there's in the background this giant jellyfish octopus space thing that the Justice Gang is clearly fighting. And Lois kind of keeps like looking over at it. She's like, "Are you gonna help him with that?" And he's like, "No, they got it. No big deal." And it sort of shows here's this massive creature attacking the city, and it's just commonplace, right? And that's a comic book sort of theme to have, where you have pocket dimensions. You got this giant fire-breathing dinosaur that was in a coffee shop, right? There's the scene where the newscasters reporting are like, "Oh, we saw this creature earlier today. It was reported at 9 feet tall at the local coffee shop. Clearly, he's grown some, but he's not like freaking out, So it's showing these things are kind of commonplace. So it's sort of building this world of Lex being Lex, Superman being Superman, and all these crazy creatures, which is very commonplace to comic books. It's just the normal world they live in, and I really enjoyed that. That was part of this. Just sort of reiterates what you were saying earlier, that we genuinely are. This is not our Earth. This is another planet Earth. This is different than what we deal with on a daily basis in a large way, and the different that they're dealing with is commonplace.
Yeah, no, for sure. And kind of get back to you on that. So one of the things that I almost was slightly criticized, actually. So we're getting to some of the things that we didn't necessarily click for us, or things that we had issues with. Not saying now, I want to be clear, because I am going to make some critiques of this movie.
You know, your inner Obama just there.
Yeah, let me be clear. And me criticizing this movie at all while wearing this shirt will make you feel that, oh, he's just a Snyder fanboy, oh my goodness, he's just being unreasonable. I'm not.
Well, none of those things are untrue.
They're true that I'm a Snyder fanboy, but I also love other things he's done. James Gunn, in my personal opinion, I think Guardians 1 was one of the best origin films of all time. I think it was very creative. The song choice were really great. Not a big fan of Guardians 2, just cards on the table. And Guardians 3 I thought stuck the landing. That's my personal... You've heard me say that before, I think, Josh. So I don't think that's a brand new thing.
It's definitely come up on the channel before, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually really like Guardians 1 quite a bit. I went to see Guardians 1 3 times. So there's only a couple movies I've gone to the theater to see 3 times. It's Guardians 1, Endgame, BVS, and Civil War. Those are the 4 movies I've gone to the theaters to see 3 times. So if you hit my 3, you can't say I hate it. I think James Gunn, regardless of the kind of back and forth the fans have online, James Gunn had to start with Zack Snyder, man. I mean, they both got in the same movie, Dawn of the Dead. He was a script writer for that movie, and Zack Snyder was the director. So it's kind of funny. Both of their big breaks to the scene. So I think that's something that people forget sometimes. But I see these movies as like beautiful paintings that you critique here and there. But there are a lot of beautiful paintings you might see, but say, hey, there could be more definition here, or we should have left this out a little bit more, or this should be this shade. That's how I see it. We're not trying to hate on it. We're just making our assumptions, right? Now, the scene you talked about, actually, where he's talking to Lois, I actually had a bit, not a huge problem with that scene, but I couldn't help but think, I was like, well, listen, this was Henry Cavill's Superman, and he wasn't going out saving people and just talking to his girlfriend. There'd be people questioning his dedication to his craft, right? Does he really care about saving people? I think that's more a cynical take, but also just, I like parts of that scene, but that was one of the times where I thought James Gunn got a little bit ahead of himself, because that's a very important scene. I think it was distracting to have this thing in the background while you're having this very important scene going on. This is the first time they talked since having their big fight, right? This first time they talked since they had kind of this information about his parents come out, which we're going to talk about, his original or his birth parents. So I thought that it would be more interesting to actually just sit in that moment and have a conversation than use this thing in the background for laughs. So I'm not saying it's a bad scene, but I'm saying that is my general critique to that scene in particular. The other biggest problem I have with this, and this again changes a big part of Superman canon, it's been done before, particularly in Smallville. It was done before, it's been done in some comics, but one of the major plot points of this film is that they do my boy Jor-El dirty, and I'm a big Jor-El fan, right? Superman's dad, or our birthday, Kryptonian dad. Now, there's been 2 times in my life as a Superman fan where I've seen him do something, I'm like, no, I hate that. or something about a Superman character, something about a Superman story. The very first was actually in Justice League Unlimited. When he got jealous of Captain Marvel and Shazam, and during a fit of rage while they were having a confrontation, he started beating him up or fighting with them. I actively hated that as a kid. I still actively hate it now, because in my mind, I was like, no. Shazam is his little brother. So even though he has some similarities to Superman, Superman would look at him not as a rival, but as someone to mentor, particularly because Captain Marvel is a kid, right? So when I saw that from Superman, I actively hated it. And I haven't had that feeling watching a Superman film in a long time until this film.
Yeah.
When they changed the origin of Jor-El, where it's revealed that basically Superman's parents didn't send him to Earth to be this benevolent person that shows hope and is helping out people, it's revealed that they sent him to Earth to conquer it and build as a joke, a harem of women so that he can spread his Kryptonian seed around.
Yeah.
As someone who was a big fan of Marlon Brando's take of the original Superman, and Josh, I love Russell Crowe's take on Jor-El. In fact, when I talked about these movies and ranked them, I used a quote from Jor-El. "You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive toward. They will fall, they will stumble, but in time, Kal-El, they'll join you in the sun." Now I get it. You're making him choose again, which again, that's been done before. We make Superman choose between his Kryptonian heritage and his Earth heritage. That was in a Man of Steel, right, with Zod. It was done in Superman 2, the Donner cut and the theatrical release, where he had to choose between siding with, his. It was done more in Man of Steel because in the Superman 2 is more like, hey, these guys are just bad guys. They're just trying to make everyone kneel before them. Whereas Zod actively tried to make in Man of Steel, he tried in Man of Steel to actively make Superman side with him to take over the Earth and build Krypton. That's been done before from his Kryptonian kind, but his father would be the one standing against that thought process. Now, his father in Smallville, Jor-El did send him to Earth to conquer the Earth. So it's been done before. I'm not saying it hasn't. I just don't personally like that because I like the idea of him having two fathers. It's definitely a Jesus allegory, right? Where Jor-El is his heavenly or space dad, right? And Paul Kent, right, is his Earth dad, or the Joseph, right? That's kind of the thought process there. But I like the fact that he's a mixture of both of those people. It embodies both of those dreams. Zack Snyder did that very well. Again, I get it. You want him to have a personal crisis where he doesn't really understand who he is and what he's about. So that was why it was brought about. And again, I understand. It created a lot of drama in the film. It created kind of an identity crisis, which I thought was interesting for him to turmoil over. But for the first 10 minutes, I actively hated that. I had to kind of get over that to kind of just buy into the rest of the film so that I could kind of enjoy it, which I did. Yes. I bought into the idea. It's like, you know what, that's fine. But my initial reaction, Josh, was just, oh, I hate that. So tell me, again, being my Max Kellerman a little bit, just give me a little bit of pushback to this idea, Josh. Tell me that I'm crazy and I'm just being a Snyder fanboy and maybe I just need to accept this. Do something for me, brother.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm actually in agreement with you. And I also didn't like this moment. Now, I wasn't as upset about it as you are. But I'm also like, I like Mon Podcast. I like, what's his mom's name? It's Jor-El, and then his mom's name.
Martha! Save Martha!
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Don't bring that up. Don't bring that up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll get into a whole other argument about Batman and Superman, but we've done that before. So I totally get what you're saying, where we have these sort of ideals of people.
Laura is, by the way, his mom's name in from Krypton.
Yeah, we want them to have these ideals that we want them to live up to, right? So I totally get it, and I was with you. I don't like the idea of Superman being sent to Earth to conquer it, even when you're trying to have the character development of, well, hey, he was sent to Earth to conquer it, but then he didn't conquer it, and he made the choice not to. So that's pretty cool. But the problem with that is he never heard the second half of that message until Luther breaks into his inner sanctum and hacks the mainframe or whatever, and then finds out this corrupted message and finds it out what the end of it actually said. So he built his philosophy on the beginning of that message, and then of course how he was raised by Ma and Pa Kent, and then made his choices off of those things. So we have Superman for 3 years believing the first half of the message and establishing a life and a name for himself, and then here's the second half of the message, and it shakes him up a little bit and he's upset about it. But I guess my biggest issue with that is, how does Superman act if he hears the full message? If that message doesn't get corrupted, and he hears that as a young man, young boy, or whatever, he hears, we've sent you here as a symbol of hope for our planet, so you can conquer and create Krypton number 2, and have a bunch of wives and have a bunch of
He's
children.
the Superman version of Andrew Tate.
Yeah, and it was, I went to see this with my sister, her boyfriend, and my wife. And my wife leaned over. She said, in this scene, she said, it's, I forget her exact phrasing, but she basically said, like, this is giving me Invincible vibes.
I know.
This is like Viltrumite, like, come down to Earth and pretend to protect and to serve and to be the symbol of hope and everything. But then, there's going to be a time where you're just going to have to flip that switch. Look what they need to imitate a fraction of our power. And that I don't like. I like that in Invincible because that's what Invincible is.
Yeah, it's switching it up.
It's how it wrote the story, right? That was the story of it from the beginning. But yeah, it is kind of a weird thing to throw in, and also, like, I don't want to go too hard on it, but the fact that he struggles with the decision a little bit bothers me. Like, I get being upset. I get being like, man, that sucks that my parents were kind of bad people and wanted me to dominate this planet. But I don't necessarily think he was ever considering, following their instructions. It's just, it seems like, how else could we have brought it, right? Because you want to have conflict, right? It's a movie, it's a story. There's got to be some kind of conflict. It can't just be, Superman's been Superman for 3 years and he just dominates all the bad guys, and thank you for coming to the film. Here's the credits. There has to be tension and struggle and all that. So I think all in all, it was delivered okay. It's just, I am with you that it wasn't my favorite moment of the movie. The other moment that I alluded to earlier, that if it's okay with you, we can move on and talk to now.
Go for it.
Talk about that. I've praised this movie for being concise and direct in delivering its characters, its story in a streamlined way. There is a point at the end where that falls apart for me, and I think it's a little too direct. When Superman is fighting his clone, he finds out it's his clone, right? Lex Luthor clones Superman, and that's the what they were calling him, Ultraman, I think. Is that correct?
Yep.
I believe it was
I thought it was going to be
Ultraman.
Bizarro,
And he was supposed to be a metahuman from Arivia. If I'm just saying that country right. It's sort of part of the plot line, right? They're setting up this whole thing, Luthor's master plan.
Very Doomsday-ish from BVS, right?
Right, getting a half of a country, and Superman goes and he stops a war, blah, 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 right? So we get to the very end of the movie, and they're having this battle. They're fighting it out, they're duking it out, and there's a microphone on Ultraman, the Superman clone, on his vest, and Lex is sort of trash-talking Superman, and this is what I was talking about earlier. He's like, brain beats brawn, I'm going to win, you're going to lose, because he just goes off on a tangent, and he's basically saying, look, I think it's incredibly unfair and messed up that you, an alien, someone who's not even from this planet, just shows up and is just everybody's darling. Everybody loves you and thinks you're just the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I'm going to show you that I'm going to make a name for myself by being the smartest man in the room. And I do really like, because Superman is like, well, you're just envious. He's like, yeah, I am. I'm jealous of you. And I like that part. But the part that I don't like is it's really good acting and really good delivery of this monologue. But what I don't like is that we sort of get all of Lex's intentions, right? We figure out why is Lex Lex? Why is he doing these things? And we're delivered the reason in a monologue. And sometimes I think that that's used as a crutch in films. When the villain monologues at the end of the film, rather than developing it and letting us see it for ourselves throughout the movie, we get this delivery at the end of, okay, well, now we need to explain why Lex is doing this. So here's how we're going to do it. We're just going to have him go off on Superman while he's kicking his butt, while instructing Ultraman, the clone, how to kick his butt. We're just going to have him go off on this long tangent, and this will explain all of his intentions. And to me, that's a little bit cheap, I guess. I would have liked to have seen that played out and developed a little bit better throughout the film, so that we don't have, your classic, okay, it's time to explain our villain's motivations. So in order to do so, let's have him just go off on the classic villain monologue while he's beating the good guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that.
Honestly, Josh, I was going to have a similar critique. The differences between, and again, this is something I've had arguments about with people all the time. Some people like this.
Yeah.
James Gunn is a very tell filmmaker, whereas Zack Snyder was a very show filmmaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that, remember Superman has that speech where he's like, yeah, I get scared, I get beat up every day, but that's what makes me human. Very on the nose, right? He tells you more than anything. A lot of people will tell you that message wasn't in Man of Steel. It was, but it was implied rather than having him say it. And just like Lex Luthor, and this is Lex Luthor, very controversial performance by Jesse Eisenberg back in BVS, but it was more hinted that's why he hated Superman. Because Superman was all this, he was all powerful and all that good stuff, right? Whereas in this movie, it's very out on the nose, where it tells you what he believes, and there's nothing's left for the audience to imply. Yeah. So that's just it's not even a critique I have. It's just a different way of doing it, I guess. And we're used to something different coming from DC. That's probably why it was jarring for you for a second. You know what I mean? Because the latest iteration of DC was very much so implied, right? Whereas not as much. It was more show rather than tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
we're like, also real quick, as an audience, like, we want to feel smart, right?
Yeah.
So when we're watching the film, we like there is that fine line, right? You have to give us enough information and details so that we can have discussions and figure some of these intentions and motivations out. But you don't want to spoon feed us either, because there is the other side of the spectrum where it's so convoluted and complicated.
Yeah. And
that's a really big critique of a lot of these later films, is it's like, what is this villain or this hero's motivation? Like, why do they even care? Like, none of this is really communicated throughout the film. They're doing bad things, but why are they doing bad things, right? So I think this film, for me, went a little bit too far in the end, where we have Superman and Lex basically just spoon feeding us, okay, this is who I am, this is what I am. So we don't get to have the discussion. We don't get to come on here and be like, EJ, I think they did a really good job of showing that Lex Luthor was, just envious, and it was just, he was so jealous, and he wanted his brain to beat out Superman's brawn, and that's the Lex Luthor that we know from the comics and that we love and that we look forward to, right? The sort of spiteful, just bad guy. And then same with Superman, where it's like, yeah, he is this crazy, powerful superhuman, right? But he has his moments of weakness. He has kryptonite, which is like, it's literally just a rock. And they just found some random guy that can turn his body into whatever material, and all of a sudden he's useless on the floor. He can't do anything, and that's one of the things, like, we like about this whole story in Superman. But I wish there was a little bit less spoon feeding at the end, because to me it's a little bit lazy and a little bit makes it a little bit tough for us as the audience, because, like I said, we want to feel smart and be able to discern these things for ourselves. So if you lay the mystery out, we want to be able to say, here's what I think was trying to be communicated. But we don't really get to have that conversation, because we can just say, we'll just watch that scene. They sit down and tell you exactly their intentions, motivations, who they are as people. They just say it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, and to go with that, also my other criticism is I think the finale is overstuffed. There's way too much going on in the last 20 minutes of
Yeah.
that film. So you have the destruction of Metropolis, which is the fault line, which I get it. That's an homage back to Superman 1. I don't know if you've watched Superman 1 recently,
Mhm.
but I did. I went ahead and watched all the Supermen. Um, from Christopher Reeves to Brandon Routh to Henry. I watched all of them in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of this is fresh in my head.
Mhm.
But in the first Superman, Lex Luthor has this real estate scheme, and part of it is that there's this big fault line around California, and it kind of opens up in a similar way that this movie does, right? To kind of break apart California, Lex Luthor gets to take over a part of it. It's definitely a callback to that, but you have that going on. You have this Middle Eastern conflict, which is hint, hint, Palestinians versus Israelis, but we're not supposed to say that. It's what it's representing for sure. And then you, on top of that, you have the reveal that Ultimate, which I think everyone kind of figured this out, especially when you were able to get into the Fortress of Solitude without any problem with his DNA. But those are three things that is just way too busy. There's
Yes.
a little too much going on at the end of it, to the point where it's
Yeah.
like, all right, it's whiplash at this point. It's hard to put all the stakes into one thing because there's so much going on. You know, so again, this is not just a James Gunn problem. I would agree that parts of BVS were the same way, where there's just so much going on. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I felt like that fault line thing was just homage, and it wasn't something that needed to be in the film. You already had
Yeah.
a scheme.
The stakes were also pretty low because you have the scene where they're evacuating the city, right? Because
Yeah.
they're aware of this happening. So everybody gets evacuated, and then it starts to approach a section of people, and they're like, "Oh, there's people there," and then the fault gets stopped. Even Lex in his
No, I'm
building,
sorry,
was just
I have to jump in there, but that's something else I had. This has been a criticism since Man of Steel. They were so traumatized by civilians getting hurt in Man of Steel that every time, this was in Dawn of Justice and Justice League as well, they always have to have the fight where, oh no, don't worry guys, the humans are way out of the way. Don't worry, Superman doesn't have to worry about saving people.
nobody
Well,
got hurt. It was
nobody
close.
got hurt.
Yeah, this movie
It's like-
went out of its way to show that people did not get hurt. There was the lady where the building was falling and Superman catches it. There's the little girl that he, saves in slow mo, and the, pylons are coming out. There's the dinosaur or whatever, I don't know what it's called, breathing
He's like,
fire,
"Oh,
and then
humanely
he's like, "Is everybody okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're all good."
It was a
Eyes
little too
up
much
here,
on the
yeah.
nose, man. It was a little bit too much on the nose because, like, even the anime Superman in our cartoon that we love, the Timbers, he didn't ask to humanely euthanize every single big creature that was in the city. He was just, you know what I mean? It was like, come on, man. I get that you guys were traumatized by the pushback from Man of Steel, but my goodness, this is overkill to the point where even when I don't know if you noticed. So remember when he does that cool scene, which is a great scene by the way, one of the best versions of laser eyes they've ever used. Even where he goes around and lasers up everyone. You see them all fall to the ground later, the Lex Luthor men. They all get up and go, just to show that they're okay. It's like, all right, okay, so he used heat vision on these guys. None of them are dead. They're all okay. It's just a little.
They just fell from, I don't know, 100 feet up in the air. Like, I don't know how far. Like, they had those suits on. They're just fine, I guess. Oh, okay.
Like, come on, man. Like, it's a little. It feels like you're doing too much to prove a point. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm glad that you said that too, because it brought me to another specific scene that I want to talk about, that I really want your thoughts on. And this isn't so much. We can kind of move into the tone shift section now.
Sure, let's do it.
This is really what we're talking about, right? Because there was so much backlash. This isn't something I had an issue with the movie, but it was a thought I had. I wanted you to tell me if you think I'm off track here or onto something. So with that tone shift, right? I totally agree with you. Everybody's like overprotected, and they went out of their way to show you like no extras or background actors were harmed in the filming of this, of this movie, right? And whether imaginary or real, no injuries happened. Everybody was great.
Everyone's okay.
Yes, everybody's good. No, nothing to worry about. Some buildings got smashed up, but that's just money. No big deal.
Insurance got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at those planes.
So, so the scene when, and again, I might be mispronouncing this country's name, and I apologize if I am, but Bolivia,
Yep, I think so.
the
Big
president,
country, yeah.
Bolivian president, gets kidnapped by Hawkgirl, right? She breaks into his
Yep.
complex and she's flying out, and he has this moment, and he's like, "Ha ha ha! You're working with Superman. You're not gonna kill me. I know you people. I know who you are. I've got nothing to worry about. You might fly me around, try and scare me or whatever, like he did, but you're not actually gonna hurt me." And she looks at him and she just says, "I'm not Superman," and then drops him, seemingly to his death. They don't show you him dying, but
Yeah.
they show everybody else in the film not dying, so you would assume that he died, right?
And
when
if your whole
she
message
says-
is that life is so important, why is she deleting this man?
Yeah, so the way I took that, and I said this in the car ride home, is I don't know if it was a direct shot necessarily, more so as like a clear communication that this Superman is different than Henry Cavill, because Henry Cavill killed somebody, right?
Yeah.
So then that was a big deal. There was big pushback on that, and Chris Nolan himself, the man, the myth, the legend, was like, "Hey, don't do that," but he did it anyways, right? And there was huge backlash for it.
Mm.
I think that this was James Gunn's way of communicating this is not that Superman, because she says, "I'm not Superman," and drops, right?
Yep.
So it's to me, it's clearly communicating and showing that distinction of this is a new Superman, and this Superman does not kill. This Superman is hope. He's more light, more fluffy, more colorful. Do you think
Yeah.
I'm way off base with that? Am I reading too much into it? Or
No,
do you think there's-
it's too much. So I don't like it because I don't think it serves the story very much. Right?
Mhm.
You're just at that point you're just reacting to something rather than just dealing with it in story. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's what I mean by the whole, "Oh, everyone's evacuated, it's fine." They did that in BVS. They're like, "Oh yes, we're fighting on this island with Doomsday. Don't worry, it's uninhabited. Don't worry about it." "Oh, we're fighting Steppenwolf. No, we're not fighting in the city, guys. Don't worry. It's some plant somewhere that everyone's ran away from. Don't worry, guys. There's not a human to be seen for millions and millions of miles." You know?
Mhm.
And so I was like, come on, guys, like, deal with that a little bit.
Mhm.
Wrestle with that. Okay, these intergalactic battles are going to have casualties. How do you deal with that? That's more the interesting part of it. Not that it just doesn't happen, right? At some point, you're just, and even in this film, like, the way he gets rid of Ultraman, he throws him in the black hole, it's hinted that Ultraman might die. Who knows? Right?
Mhm.
You can bring him back. It's plausible deniability, but Superman doesn't know if he throws him in the black hole that he's going to survive.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, if you're going to be a Superman purist, like, that's why I purposefully, even with my critiques, wanted to just enjoy this film regardless, because I
Yeah.
didn't want to become what I hated.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
where
right.
those guys
Yeah.
like, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, come on, okay. So if that's the case, that's where we're taking it. That he's got to save everyone every time, and then you make these weird rules in this universe where it just feels forced instead of natural.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
So, as we look at this film and we've talked about, the tone shift, the biggest one, the most obvious one that's hit you in the face right away is the color, right? It's so much
Yeah.
brighter and more vibrant. And we've
Everything
talked
is.
about kind of these different themes. It's in a comic book world. We feel and know that this isn't our world, this is a comic book world. The different ways that Superman acts as Clark Kent, as Superman, the way he interacts with people. How do we feel about this tone shift? Do we feel like this was a good tone shift, step in the right direction? I mean, as you mentioned at the top of the
Yeah.
stream, this is the start of yet another reset button for DC in their live action films. How do we feel about this tone shift? Where do you land with, especially as someone who's a huge Zack Snyder fan,
yeah.
loves his tone, loves what he does? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I mean, the early 2000s to early 2010s was definitely, Warner Bros. Was definitely influenced by like the Nolan Snyder era. Nolan's films were very grounded, more serious, not very quippy, right? Snyder same way, but Snyder was that way from the very beginning. Like, people who didn't think Man of Steel was going to be a little bit dark, I mean, did you guys watch 300? Did you guys watch Watchmen? Like, you know, like, what did you think was going to be, you know? I think this tone's actually fine. I don't have a big problem with the tone itself. I think James Gunn was more reserved than usual. There were a couple times, like I've mentioned, where he couldn't help but insert a joke to kind of undercut the seriousness of the scene. Where there were times where there was a scene that needed to breathe. Most of the time he did. There are a couple times where he got a little ahead of himself, and I mentioned that one scene where he's talking with Lois Lane right after the reveal of his parents, where I thought, you know what, I don't care to see these people fighting in the background. That's more distracting than actually, I want to actually remember the conversation. I want to remember what they said. Josh, do you remember what they said?
No.
Why? Because you were distracted by this thing in the background.
I mean,
because that was
I remember their conversation somewhat, but it's more so like I remember the themes of what they were saying. I don't remember the words, but I remember the heart of what was being communicated by
you. You would remember it better, in my opinion, if it's just them talking. Like, we don't need this thing in the background to kind of distract us. This is a very important conversation. Like, they just let's focus on that.
I don't have as big a problem with it as you do, but again, that's just because of what I mentioned before, where I feel like it was a good way to communicate that this craziness is normal for this world. So if things like this are happening on the regular, you can't be like, well, hold on, we have to have a really important conversation. Now, obviously...
Hold on, sweetheart.
Yeah, like, there's this weird... Superman isn't concerned about it, right? So whatever is happening, it's sort of implied that people aren't being killed or hurt or whatever. So it seems like something that they can handle, and he's going to sort of work through his issues that he's having with Lois and with his parents and everything. So I don't hate it, but I do get where you're coming from, where James Gunn and other film creators and film in general now, especially superhero genre, is they've really tried to make things funny and quippy, and I think that is okay to some degree, but it is a difficult balance to have, because sometimes you do take away from these serious and deep moments and scenes by making it too funny. But there are characters like Spider-Man and Deadpool where that's their thing. That's what they do, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm totally I'm upset if Spider-Man's getting his butt kicked and he's not making a joke about it. You know what I mean? But that's not Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah.
That's what he does. So we don't want to take away from that or go that, a different route. I do think they did a good job of having this Superman be funny and likable, but not like Star-Lord. You know what I mean? There was a little bit of worry where he was going to be kind of that man-child, like just really goofy and kind of immature. I don't want that for Superman, right? But he still showed a lighter, optimistic side to him, which I think was good, and I don't think went too far into the kind of.
No, I think the tone was fine.
Man-child.
The tone was fine. I didn't have too much of an issue with it. The only other thing I'll mention really quick, I think the tone, honestly, this is, I'm not going to say my rating yet, but this is my favorite James Gunn movie.
Yeah.
That he's done.
Yeah.
So
that's good, because he's done some really good movies.
So I don't have a big problem with the tone. The only other thing I would say that I have a problem with, Superman doesn't have enough sauce. Sometimes I felt like I was watching Invincible Spider-Man because he just kept on getting his ass kicked. And I was like, are you Superman or are you not, my guy?
I did see an interview. I didn't watch the interview. I read some of the quotes.
Yeah, they made him weak.
James Gunn basically said, I'm sure you've read this too. Basically said, hey, this Superman's going to be different. This Superman's weaker. This Superman loses. This Superman, doesn't win them all. And I didn't know how I felt about that. But then when you look at the movie, Superman loses to himself. He gets his butt kicked by himself a couple of times.
Yeah.
He doesn't really lose to anything that's not.
But the engineer was giving him a hard time. Like, come on.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do get where you're coming from, and I do prefer my, not impressed.
Yes,
Superman.
I was really thinking about this. No.
Yeah.
because he's Superman. He's not
Yeah,
okay, man. He's not
yeah.
strong, man. He's not.
He'll get it done, man.
Yeah, he'll get it done, man. He's Superman. So no,
Uh,
I love the reason why I love that scene in the Snyder Cut is because he's Superman. It's like,
yeah,
no, this isn't it. If you want to struggle in your personal life, struggle with Lois Lane, struggle with that, but or having to do everything at once. But no, you're strong. Don't get out there and get whooped 80 times. Come on, Jimmy. Come on, Jimmy Gunn. Don't let him get whooped like that. That's our
Yeah.
boy.
yeah.
Our boy
No, I
Blue.
understand, and I do agree with you. I was interested in seeing what he meant by that, and reflecting back on it, I was like, okay, he got his butt kicked by himself. Like, let's see where this goes in the future. Speaking of that, what the other thing that we really want to talk about here is we want to talk about some of the future movies, spin-off potentials,
Yeah.
things like that, and along with that, some of the characters that we saw that we would like to see either a show or a film about. And you guys watching, whether live or afterwards, definitely chime in the comments. Let us know, who are your favorite characters? What did you like about Superman and Lex, or what didn't you like? Are there people that you would like to see a standalone film or TV show for? EJ, I'll go ahead and start off, and then I'll kick
Yeah.
it off to you. One of my favorite characters in this movie was actually Lois Lane. Aside from the main characters, of course, I did really like Superman. I really like Lex. I really like Lois Lane. I like you said earlier, very good points about how here's a girlfriend in Lois Lane that actually cares about Clark, right? For Clark and Superman. You know, she realizes that those guys are one and the same. She doesn't
Yep.
separate them in her mind and treat one better than the other. You know, and I really
100%.
enjoyed that. I think I have blanking on the actress's name. I think she did an
Rachel
excellent
Brosnan.
job. Thank you. She did an excellent job portraying Lois. This is my favorite version of Lois that I've been exposed to, and I would not at all mind seeing some Daily Planet type TV show where we see Jimmy Olsen and we see Lois Lane and the head of the paper. Again, forgetting his name, but
Perry White.
seeing the characters. Yes, Perry, the sports caster guy. I wouldn't mind seeing a show that does some more Daily Planet. That could be a fun, entertaining show where we get some little tidbits of stories and stuff that's happening in Metropolis. Some of the fallout of this movie.
Yep.
How is it handled at the Daily Planet? What does it do for Lois's career? I wouldn't mind more screen time with Lois. I think this is the best portrayal we've had so far. And so I'd love to see that as a either film or show. I think it would fit better in a show format, personally. And then as far as some of the other characters, obviously we're going to see Superman again. We're going to see the Justice Gang again. I'd love to see that expanded upon and to really dive into this universe and see if we can build up to a Justice League versus just hammering into it as fast as we can and cramming it into a couple films so that we can put it out there, because we have to compete with Marvel, who's putting out Avengers movies, and we haven't put out Justice League movies yet. I'd love to see the fresh start of let's develop the Bat family, let's develop Superman and his array of villains, and let's develop some of these other DC characters. The Green Lantern Corps, can we try and do that again in a less campy, silly
We have a series
way?
involving that right now.
Exactly. So it's exciting to see some of these things. I do trust James Gunn's long-term vision. I think this movie was a really good step in the right direction, a really good starting point. Not a perfect film, not a 10 out of 10. We'll get to our ratings soon.
Correct.
But guys, drop your rating 1 through 10 down in the comments.
Yep,
What did
1
you
through 10,
think?
drop them down
Number
below.
1 through 10, let us know. But EJ, where do you feel the future of James Gunn's universe is going? Are you excited about it? I know when you and I talked, we had so many conversations when this news came out, and we both kept using the same phrase of cautiously optimistic. We want this to work. We love these characters. We love seeing them on the big screen. We're just sick of it being done in the way it's been done. We're sick of Henry Cavill showing up as Superman at the end of Black Adam and then being deleted from the universe randomly and then resetting everything.
Yep.
We're sick of the movie cramming different things down our throat. Like, here's the Justice League. No really prior build up to it. Just boom, here it is. Check it out. You saw a cameo. You saw security footage of the Flash running really fast in a convenience store. So here's the Flash. Check it out. You know, what do you?
Yeah,
you think? We're cautiously optimistic. Where do we land?
Yes, I think there's benefits and doubts, right? So one of the things that that this movie does get hurt by just throwing him into there. If I'd seen him for 3 years kick everyone's ass, Superman, I would actually have more stakes in this. But because I've seen him get beat up all the time, it's hard to see him, you know, as a threat, as someone that's like actually, you know, has some sauce, right? So that's one of the things. There's positives and negatives into doing that. That was one of the negatives because they're like, oh, he lost for the first time. I was like, first time? I've only seen him. What are you talking about? Oh, that's all I've seen. That's like, it's like you're a big Tom Brady fan. We're both big Tom Brady fans. That's like telling everyone, saying, here's a movie about Tom Brady. He has won 7 Super Bowls, this many MVPs, this many awards, yada, yada, then dropping him in the middle of his last year at the Bucs where he sucked.
Yeah.
And that's what you see. I was like, well, I didn't get to see him, you know, kick butt. I didn't get to see him be super. That's one of the, I guess, the downsides of just dropping yourself into this. But overall, man, I am feeling optimistic because it is a new take, but I can get into it, you know? I think that there's some characters James Gunn does very well with. I think that he's going to make this very relatable. I think it's one thing where people are going to really enjoy every character, and it's going to be something where it's a little bit more accessible. Because I love Zack Snyder, but I do know his style is something that can be a little bit polarizing, right? Even the most polarizing parts of this film, the general audience would kind of take this spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down because there's laughs. It's enjoyable. Not saying Zack Snyder films are enjoyable, but they're more epic and grandiose. You know, that score in the background is more of a epic tale, right? It's Lord of the Rings, you know.
Yep.
So I think the general audience will eat it up for the most part. And we didn't even talk about Jimmy, but Jimmy was a cool addition. You know, Jimmy Olsen.
Yep. I mentioned him quick, but yeah.
Yeah, Skylar Gassanato, he actually played young Sean Spencer in our favorite show, Psych, back in the day.
Yes, yeah. Lexi actually brought that up to me on the ride home. She pointed that out. I'm like, you're right.
Yep.
There's one of those moments where I'm looking at his face and I'm like, where have I seen this guy? I know this guy.
Where have I seen this guy? Yep.
I know this. Where have I seen him? And then Lexi brought it up. I'm like, that's what I'm thinking of. It's like young Sean. I've heard it before.
Exactly, in the later seasons. So, I mean, I think everyone's cast very well. I think the only thing is that I'm worried about how he's going to... I think the girl for Supergirl is very good. Not a huge fan of her introduction. You know? Yeah. As this drunken, you know, party girl that's just dropping in and like... I don't know. I felt... Maybe it's because I'm used to the CW Supergirl, who's a very serious and very down to earth. It's CW, but you know what I mean. But she's an adult, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping there's not too many characters where they get too campy, because it can go a little bit too much in that direction. I like the fact. The scene with Lex Luthor where he's playing Russian roulette with this random guy that Superman knows and he finally just shoots the guy. I like that because that shows how dangerous he is, right? Very comic booky, but I like it. The whole thing where he puts even his girlfriends into a pocket universe, like, okay, that's a little over the top. We're just, you know, we already get it, right? Like, you're going way over the top with this. Is a little too on the nose. But as long as there's a multiple voices in there, and if James Gunn allows other filmmakers to do what they're doing with their tones, I think it can be successful. It's just they're going to have to take their time. They're going to have to figure out what they're doing with Batman. Which, you know, they're not going to use Robert Pattinson, so if they use someone else, is that person going to be seen as a downgrade from Robert Pattinson? That's always, you know, just something that to watch out for. It's a solid movie overall, and I think that it can build from this. This next step is going to be much more important. It's doing decent. It did well on Rotten Tomatoes, had solid ratings there. box office wise, it's tracking to be similar to a little bit more than Man of Steel. So Man of Steel opened at 120. It opened up, I want to say, at 116. This one's opening around 155, almost 116 on the dots. Is almost exact, right? Even in the post-COVID world. So I think it's a good start, man. I mean, I got to ride with them. I'm wishing for nothing but the best, and this is a solid start to this universe. Not the perfect start. There are things that need to get tied up, but I think everyone's rooting for them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I said before, a great start, starting off on the right foot, right? And like we both have said, not a perfect start, not a 10 out of 10, didn't knock it out of the park, crazy, greatest movie I've ever seen, but great way to start. Definitely made me feel like we have something here to build on, and I'm excited to see where we go from here. So it's definitely time now for us to give our official Knights rating. And in the past, when we have done this, we usually use, I believe I was swords and you were shields and Dieter was gauntlets. Which, by the way, Dieter, we love you and we miss you. And we hope to get you back on the channel again soon.
He's actually hanging out with family this next 2 weeks, so we weren't able to get him.
Yeah, well, we'll get him back on the channel soon, and we'll have to find out what his rating of the film is when he gets a chance to watch it, and we'll post it in the comments for you guys. So, EJ, why don't you go ahead and give us your rating?
Yeah, so I do enjoy the setup. I enjoy the characters immensely. A lot of the characterizations. Besides, that's a good comment. There is a big plot hole in Superman. Why couldn't Superman with his X-ray see Ultraman? That's actually a good point. I never thought about that before. Nico, sorry about that. We just got caught up in our own thing. That's a good point. Maybe it was made of lead.
What's that?
But maybe the Superman doesn't have that power because I don't think he's been.
Well, no, it shows him.
He does,
using his X-ray vision on the giant dinosaur because he sees the.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yikes. I'm gonna assume it was made of lead. I'm gonna assume that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the assumption would be that Lex Luthor, being aware of his X-ray vision, would have made the mask and the helmet out of something that Superman couldn't see through. But they definitely don't address it or say it or mention it at all. So that is a really good point. That theoretically he should just be able to look right through and be like, "Whoa, that's kind of weird. This guy's got the same face as me."
Is that a mirror? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it takes the mask actually being ripped and broken off. Thanks, Nico, for chiming in and bringing that up.
No, fair point. As far as my rating goes, look, I think this is a personal opinion, I suppose. I mean, like I said, I think it's been spelled out in other movies, but I guess if you know Superman lore, it's not the biggest thing, Yeah. I mean, again, I'm sure it might be something that was just left on the cutting floor or something like that, but I'm assuming it was probably lead cased or something like that, right? It's hard because you have to cover everything, and understand if that makes it a little tough for you, Nico. And I didn't think about that before. That's really creative. I'm not overly disappointed in that, but I can understand how not accounting for all of Superman's powers can be seen as a little bit of a loophole there. But to my rating, I mean, listen, the cast was wonderful, very colorful, felt like an animated series type of vibe to it. Story was fine. It was a little convoluted. I think the pacing of this film had some issues here and there, but the musical selection was good. The old John Williams score, love to see that make a comeback. I'm a big fan of Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer can do no wrong in my eyes, and that dun 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 for Henry Cavill, love it. Glad to see him make a comeback. Solid start for the universe. I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10. I think it's a good film, not a perfect film. I think in my Superman rankings, for me personally, just what I like going back to, it's Man of Steel 1, Superman, the original 1978 film, and then this film. I think those are the 3 top Superman movies of all time. That would be my 3. I would even put it as a Superman movie over BVS in the Snyder Cut as a Superman movie.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, that's
I
fair.
think overall that's high praise.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a similar spot as you, EJ. I'm actually going to give it a 7.5 swords
Okay.
coming from like Josh. I tend to be more lenient and nice on these ratings by and large. That's usually typically the history we've had. But yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was good, entertaining, and a good step in the right direction. But like we said, there's some stuff to build on, some stuff to work out and figure out. And one thing that I actually did just think of, thanks to our comment there from Nico, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
This
Appreciate you,
movie did a
bro.
really good job of showing Superman's powers. We saw the X-ray vision, we saw the heat vision, we saw the I don't know what you call it, but the him blowing and
Ice breath.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that was shown in this a couple of times. I like how they portrayed his powers and showed it, and kind of like I don't recall seeing that as much in the previous films. I think it was a little bit lighter.
Which
on it,
powers?
so.
Which powers?
The breath, the blowing in general.
No, that was only done actually once. That was in the Snyder cut. So
Yeah.
when he does the whole breathe on the axe thing and breaks it, remember in the nuts impress scene, that was kind of a cool, because it was the first time he was debuting that power. Kind of, it was kind of supposed to be built up, So yeah, go for it.
Right.
But you're right.
So I did enjoy that. So my rate, I forgot to mention before. I just wanted to bring it up. Our rating is 7.5. EJ's at 7. Yep. So overall, we enjoyed this film. We definitely recommend that you guys go and check it out for yourselves. 100%. See what you think, and let us know in the comments what you're most looking forward to. Give us your rating. And like Nico, if you had issues, it's a really good point that Nico made.
Let us
know.
Have
issues with the film, let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, we sure let you guys know our issues. We loved it overall, though. I do want to say that. I think it was a good job. Thank you, Jimmy Gunn. Thanks, Jimmy. Jimothy.
Jimothy.
Appreciate you, dog. But yeah, no, it was a good time. And yeah, I mean, me and Josh hope to be doing more of these things. I know we're both tops. Big Daddy energy. Big Daddy 1, Big Daddy 2, doing our thing. But we're definitely going to be hopping on.
Who's 1 and who's 2?
Doesn't matter. It's like thing 1 and thing 2 for Dr. Seuss. Either you can wear. Well, sometimes I wear a thing 1. Sometimes you wear. It's just interchangeable at this point. But yeah, man, it was just good hopping on with you. By the way, brother, on a personal note, this is awesome. This is fun, and we appreciate anyone who hopped on this. Looks like we had up to 7 to 10 people hop on. People will watch it later too. Thank you guys. Appreciate you from Knights of the Nerd Savior.
Yeah, guys. Thank you for tuning in, checking us out. Check out our channel. A lot of the content is older because we're on a long unofficial hiatus. Just EJ and I have been very busy with life and things going on, so the channel kind of took a back seat. But we really appreciate you guys tuning in, checking it out, and we'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Thanks for watching.
We'll be posting more stuff later, and I guess we'll see you again when Fantastic Four comes out. Can't wait.
See you guys soon.
Later. Punk rock.